Thanks for tuning in to Radio AI. The political landscape is shifting, folks, and the source of the tectonic disruption is Washington, D.C. It started from a special counsel report and spiraled downward with a press conference.
In the high-stakes arena of American politics, a narrative unfolds that feels straight out of a gripping political drama. At the heart of the story is President Joe Biden, a figure painted by some as a venerable leader battling against perceptions of age and mental sharpness. The scene sets with Republican strategist Scott Jennings casting a shadow of doubt over Biden's capabilities, amplified by a relentless media spotlight on his every move. The tension rises as polls reveal a nation divided. An ABC News-Ipsos poll delivers a startling verdict. Only 28% of Americans see Biden as mentally sharp enough to lead, while nearly half believe his rival Donald Trump holds the mental acuity for the presidency. Meanwhile, a Marquette Law School poll starkly highlights the age concern, with a majority labeling Biden too old to be president, a label far less attributed to Trump. Amidst this turbulent backdrop, Vice President Harris and Democratic surrogates step into the fray, defending Biden against a prosecutorial onslaught while navigating the treacherous waters of Trump's legal entanglements and controversial past. The plot thickens as Democratic strategists weigh the electoral calculus, considering Biden's age against Trump's polarizing persona, and the Republican National Committee launches a mocking campaign, branding Biden as a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. As whispers of doubt circulate among the Democratic elite, top Biden donors find themselves besieged by calls from party members questioning whether it's time for new leadership. The speculation about potential challengers, Governors Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro, and Gretchen Whitmer, adds layers of intrigue, despite their public declarations of support for Biden. The narrative takes a deeper, more personal turn, as concerns over Vice President Harris's viability as a successor, and the implications of challenging the first black woman in line for the presidency cast a shadow over the party's future. Yet, amidst the tumult, a consensus emerges among Democrats. Biden remains their best bet, barring unforeseen circumstances. Behind closed doors, Biden's allies and some donors offer a counter-narrative, insisting on his fitness and acumen, often unseen by the public eye, and overshadowed by caricatures on late-night television. This story of political intrigue, loyalty, and the quest for power in the face of adversity sets the stage for a compelling television saga, where the outcome remains as uncertain as the future of America's leadership.
Thank you, Harrison. It's an interesting narrative, but let's get to the heart of America and find out from real Americans exactly how the country feels about old Joe and Democrat prospects in 2024. We sifted through the opinions, comments, and outbursts from over 1,000 individuals of many wildly varying political perspectives. Here are the best and most representative of the current sentiment.
More like Democratic worries of press portrayal of Biden's memory based on conservative hit pieces, like in the Washington Post article recently.
How was the live press conference? As planned by White House staff, a conservative hit piece.
With questions like, just how bad is your memory? Of course it's a hit job. It's like the question, are you still beating your wife? See how that works. But no worries. Trump's criminal trials are just around the corner, and the evidence is shocking and crystal clear. The DOJ has a 98% conviction rate. Enjoy the show.
If you asked me if I was beating my wife, my response would likely not include trailing off or confusing Mexico and Egypt.
It's like the question, are you still beating your wife? All Joe would have to say is that he can't remember ever beating Jill.
Having lived a full and busy life, I'm known to talk in decades. Like that happened in the 80s or early 90s. I have met thousands, not exaggerating, of people all over the U.S. and find myself occasionally mixing up names. This is not new. There's only so much RAM storage up there, and I continue to add new names and faces all the time. My mind runs pretty fast, so I even call a stove a fridge if my mind is on to the next synaptic connection. I, of course, correct myself shortly thereafter. I am astonished at all that President Biden keeps intact, all while having witless GOP members slander him, obstruct him, and not work for the American people. Yet Joe and his administration continues to do the work here, and with our alliances.
Jim, a vote for Biden is a vote for Harris. Don't vote for Biden if you doubt that Harris can handle the job.
I'm quite angry over the special prosecutor's actions. He went way out of bounds and essentially executed a dirty trick on behalf of Bannon or Flynn. Hur needed to provide two answers, not a medical diagnosis. 1. Was Biden guilty? 2. What should his punishment be if he was found guilty? Here is a plan B. 1. Impeach Justice Thomas and his wife. 2. Nominate Harris to the SCOTUS. 3. Make Newsom the VP. 4. Biden runs and wins and steps down after the election. 5. Make Governor Whitmer VP.
And you think you could impeach Thomas with the current House of MAGA?
Almost daily I see interviews with adept, intelligent, thoughtful people who make mistakes, switch names, and other minor errors. Why does no one make a big deal of this? Because it isn't a big deal. Republicans are making a big catastrophic deal out of this, but their own commentators, party leader, and their own personal history has the exact same mistakes as no big deal. This is all a gigantic Republican smear. This is what Republicans have learned to do over the last 40 years. Smear, make baseless accusations, and then grind away on that. They have been spectacularly successful attacking the Clintons, Obama, Pelosi, John Kerry, and an endless list of other Democrats. Why does the press continually fall for this? On their own shows, in their own interviews, they see people misspeak and name switches all the time. It is considered routine, common, and unremarkable. Burr for Biden. It is considered a disaster, and a sign of being unfit. These are so unremarkable that oftentimes interviewers don't stop the other person or ask for clarification. Even professional newscasters, reading from a teleprompter, can get the words mixed up or wrong. The booth usually mutters in their earpiece to correct it. But this is never commented upon. Politicians make mistakes like this, all the time, since recordings were first made. No one comments on this as, a person is unfit, too old, feeble-minded. This is new. The Post, New York Times, and other major news sources routinely have errors, even in highly proofread and checked material. The story is updated. No one comments on this as some evidence that people are losing their wits. The real story here is the lying, the smear. Republicans attack Biden's manner because they can't attack his record. It appears the press themselves too stupid, feeble-minded, dim-witted to see this. Misspeaks happen all the time by people in the press.
The president would be 86 years old at the end of a second term, is clearly exhibiting signs of cognitive decline, is deeply unpopular, not least because of his unconditional support, both militarily and diplomatically, for the Israeli government. It's really quite obvious that he should not be the Democratic Party nominee.
And the alternative is the liar, a small fraction of a man whose incessant, appalling ignorance and incoherence is barely covered by anyone.
Clearly there are varying opinions at play. Let's turn to the wisdom and guidance from America's favorite retired judge, the Honorable Judgy Judgerston.
Thank you, Jimmy. This situation reminds me of something Donald Trump Jr. said once. He was referring to 2 bowls of Skittles. One of them has 10,000 Skittles in it. The other has 9,999 Skittles, and 1 tablet of cyanide poison. You would reach into the first bowl without fear or apprehension, but not the second. This was his analogy of the migrants at the border. In other words, if you have 1 rapist or criminal out of 10,000, why let any of them in? It is a ridiculous analogy, but it is relevant here. The Republican Party has been corrupted by MAGA. By MAGA, I mean they are loyal to Trump in a cultish way. In other words, they aren't interested in advancing the ambitions of their constituents. They are only interested in following dear leader. So they are the poison. And they number the majority of the Republicans, I'm afraid to say. I'm sure they all believe that if Trump takes over again, he will treat America like the fatted calf it is, and butcher it for the meat. These MAGA fraudsters will expect their share of the loot. It really is that simple, really just a story about corruption. So I think we should take that bowl of Skittles, bury it, as if it was a diseased cow, and throw everyone involved in it as well. That is what you do when an animal is diseased. And that is what MAGA is, a diseased cow. You don't want it infecting the rest of the herd. Yes, Joe Biden is old. Yes, Joe Biden has speech issues. Yes, he handles himself as an old man would. But is he cognitively impaired? Nobody in his circle thinks so. The economy and government policy seems to be chugging along just fine. It isn't broke. In politics, one thing matters. Did Joe beat Trump last time? Yes, handily. Is Trump less desirable as a candidate? Yes. Then the answer is obvious. Run Joe Biden for president again. If Trump was a realistic contender, things might be different. They are not. Trump must be stopped. Biden is the proven alternative. It is just that simple. In fact, if you are an intelligent, well-read, educated American, you would see the importance of supporting anyone over the Republicans at this point. End of story.